and a legend was born. With this offering, Shohei Ohtani lit up a radar gun to a level then unrivaled by his high school peers, 160 kph, or roughly 100 miles per hour. No one in the fabled history of Japanese high school baseball had reached this apex, or at least not on anywhere near as big of a stage. Some of you might wonder, doesn't this thing happen at just about every Perfect Game showcase? You wouldn't be wrong. However, not in 2012, and certainly not from a guy who could also boast the power potential of a prime Hideki Matsui. Still, it might strike some as odd, maybe even preposterous, that this single high school pitch thrown 11 years ago would still have an impact today. But, and excuse me for saying this, you'd be wrong. Because, let's never forget this, no one had really heard of Shohei back then, and no one had considered what he could do was even possible, until that offering. When Shohei threw that famed 100-mile-per-hour pitch, he was playing for Hanamaki Higashi High School, coached by the legendary Hiroshi Sasaki. Like his now constant comparison, Babe Ruth, Ohtani lived in a dorm during high school, away from his family. People have likened Ohtani's baseball upbringing to a near religious one, similar to the Babe's, because Sasaki's program demanded total dedication. No junk food, no girlfriends, very limited screen time, and hours every day devoted to baseball. Ruth was literally taught and coached by monks, and he dwelled within the walls of an industrial school where baseball became his overwhelming passion. But here's where the 100-mile-per-hour pitch becomes even more poignant. During his first year at Hanamaki Higashi in 2010, Sasaki didn't even pitch Ohtani. He played him everywhere except pitcher, even though Shohei could hit 87 miles per hour with his fastball at just 14. Sasaki didn't want to rush the prodigy's development after all. Ohtani was 6'2" even then, but very thin and could barely bench press the bar. The fact that Ohtani was even at a private school that was known for being elite when it comes to baseball was directly inspired by one person, a near contemporary of his at the time, Yusei Kikuchi, who currently pitches for the Toronto Blue Jays. But before we get more into that, I want to tell you a bit about today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, and how you can still salvage your fantasy season today. Yes, today, even as we near the All-Star break. You see, right now, until July 14th, Underdog is running a fantasy campaign called the 7th Inning Stretch, where you can draft a team for the second half of the MLB season. In what's called their best ball format, all you need to do is join the 7th Inning Stretch, draft your team, and that's it. There are no waivers, no trades, and no in-season management. Draft 20 players and get the best cumulative scores in your starting lineup, made up of 3 pitchers, 3 infielders, 3 outfielders, and 1 flex each week of the regular season. Getting started is simple. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com, then sign up with promo code MTC, and Underdog will double your initial deposit up to $100. The 7th Inning Stretch is $150,000 in total prizes, and it's only $7 to enter. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for Underdog with promo code MTC and get that first deposit doubled so you can draft in the 7th Inning Stretch today. Now, back to our video. Kikuchi was the best high school pitcher in the country, a lefty who could touch the upper 90s with his heater. Ohtani wanted to follow in Kikuchi's footsteps and be the leader of this prestigious program. Yusei had gained acclaim and fame over the summer of 2009 when he led the team to the semifinals of the National High School Baseball Championship of Japan, aka Summer Koshien. Before we go further, we need to talk a little bit about what the Koshien means to Japan. There are 2 Koshien tournaments in Japan, the spring and the summer tournaments. Spring is an invitational, while summer pits all 4,000 high schools in the country in a single elimination battle to determine the country's champion. Both tournaments are nationally televised, but it's summer that has a history that stretches back over 100 years, and is a Japanese touchstone along the lines of Hoosiers meets the Super Bowl. One of the main reasons that baseball players in Japan work as diligently as they do is to take their team to the Summer Koshien. Out of the 4,000 teams that begin, only 49 make it to the hallowed Koshien Stadium in Osaka in August. Each of the 47 prefects has its own tournament and sends the winner on to Osaka, though Tokyo and Hokkaido send 2 due to their massive size. These individual prefecture games are televised. In fact, so many people watch it on TV that the country's power grid is put under strain. Heroes emerge from the games, and fan favorites become national icons. Kikuchi joined a long list of warrior hurlers for his performance in 2009, when he bravely went out to pitch in a semifinal game with a broken rib. He was in agony, but tried to gut through it. His team lost, and he bravely shed tears of devastation, a tragic sight in front of millions watching at home. This is part of the spectacle of Koshien. There is 1 winner and 3,999 losers. What other tournament can claim numbers like this? Ohtani's parents let him make his own decision about where to attend high school. He could have gone to a public and they would have supported him, but the allure of being the next Kikuchi was too much to pass up. But there was something else that made Ohtani take notice of Yusei. Kikuchi was thinking of bypassing the MPP draft entirely and making himself an MLB free agent right out of high school. You see, Ohtani had made it no secret he wanted to go straight to the US to begin his career, just like Kikuchi had announced in 2009. No Japanese high schooler had ever done so. Ichiro, Daisuke, Matsui, Nomo all had played stayed in NPB before coming to the United States. Kikuchi was serious about being a pioneer. MLB scouts were watching, and many teams expressed interest in signing him. Young Ohtani watched this drama unfold, with the best players, heroes from the Summer Koshien, go to rookie ball in Modesto now, instead of staying in Japan and becoming near overnight superstars. In the end, Kikuchi was taken first overall by the Cebu Lions and stayed in Japan until he was eligible to be posted when he reached 27. Ohtani, however, had other ideas. Hiroshi Sasaki didn't just look at himself as a baseball coach. He was an educator, and he wanted to make his players the best versions of themselves they could be on and off the field. He fervently believed that students needed goals and a plan to reach these goals, so he had players write down their own personal aims and refer to them often for guidance. Ohtani's goal for when he turned 18 was simple: play for an MLB team. He wrote this down during his first year in high school. But Sasaki was also a gardener, and he knew that plants needed a big pot in order to grow healthy and strong. He knew that Shohei was a special talent, and so he would have to set an especially lofty goal for his prized pupil, throwing 160 kph in high school. After all, Kikuchi had gained weight and added velo to his fastball during his time at the institution. The same could happen with Ohtani. The fact that Ohtani actually reached this goal almost disappointed Sasaki. To him, it meant that he'd actually set the bar too low, or the pot for his plant was too small. Later, he'd say that the goal should have been 163 for Ohtani. As for Shohei's goal, he was dead serious about not playing in Japan. He told every team in the MPB not to draft him, that he was definitely going to the show, and every team in Japan took him at his word, except one, the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters. But could they sign him? It was Ohtani's dream to be an MLB star. What could dissuade him? Well, after many long conversations about the bus rides to Modesto and rookie ball, where no one speaks Japanese and you stay in low-rent hotels and eat crummy food, all at the tender age of 18, Ohtani found himself leaning away from this original plan. So he stayed. Ohtani had saw the dark underside of American pro ball, one he'd have to spend at least a few years in, and had decided against the decision. Perhaps even more importantly, however, the Ham Fighters had also said, when you're ready to go, we'll post you. Another aspect of why he decided to stay was the fact that they had offered to let him pitch and hit, something no MLB club would guarantee. And here, the echoes of Babe Ruth are heard again. When leaving St. Mary's, Ruth signed his first contract with his hometown team, the Baltimore Orioles, then in the International League. They let him hit and pitch, a trend he continued even as he broke in with the Red Sox in 1914. If the Babe or Ohtani had started their careers under different circumstances, the majesty of their journey may have been greatly diminished. So, as we've established, the spring and summer Koshien tournaments earned baseball players in Japan eternal glory, and that 100-mile-per-hour pitch was the high water mark of Ohtani's high school career, at least on a national stage. However, it didn't take place at Koshien Stadium. Each high school player has 3 seasons to qualify for summer Koshien, or get invited to spring Koshien. Ohtani didn't pitch in 2010, but he did hit. Unfortunately, not quite enough for his team to advance to Osaka. Sasaki wanted to wait until Ohtani had been with the team for one summer before putting him on the mound, which he did in the fall. In 2011, during his second year in high school, Ohtani was now throwing between 93 and 95 miles per hour, a ridiculous mark for a 15-year-old. The reason Sasaki wanted to be careful with Ohtani was that he was still growing, his body was still developing, and with his long arms and legs, issues can arise in the so-called growth plates, cartilage located at the end of long bones where new growth is occurring in children and teens. Until growth plates close, they're kind of rubbery and can be susceptible to overuse injuries. And as 2011 summer Koshien approached, Ohtani started having some growth plate issues in his hip, and Sasaki didn't hesitate to scale back his pitching. Even though Hanamaki Higashi qualified for the summer Koshien by winning the I-Weight Championship, in the first round Sasaki didn't start Ohtani at pitcher, but put him in right field instead and batted him third. He ended up coming in to relieve and losing a heartbreaking 8-7 loss. He hit 93 on the radar gun with his fastest pitch and also featured a slow curve and sharp slider. His control was spotty, but the defense behind him was even spottier. At the plate, he went 1 for 3 with 2 RBIs on a single that nearly knocked down the left field wall. At this point, Ohtani might not have been a national hero or a worldwide phenomenon, but everything was set up for Ohtani's final push for greatness. In 2012, Ohtani would be an adult, in size and in age. That was the year that the best high school player in the world might lead Hanamaki Higashi High School to 2 championships, the spring and summer Koshien. Only 5 schools in Japanese history had done it, including Daisuke Matsuzaka in 1998, who threw over 800 pitches in 2 weeks of the summer leg. But it wouldn't happen for Shohei. Spring was invitational, but still a national sensation. All of the games are indeed played at Koshien Stadium, built in 1924 and modeled after the Polo Grounds. The infield dirt is considered sacred, and players scoop it up for keepsake after games. Ohtani's team was scheduled to play powerhouse Osaka Toin High School, led by a pitcher many scouts had ranked higher as a prospect than Ohtani at the time, current Oakland A's reliever Shintaro Fujinami. After all, Fujinami was another lanky righty who threw hard, but with arguably better off-speed pitches at the time, making him a very coveted asset on a baseball team. In fact, in the MPB draft, Fujinami was the first pick overall, or to be precise, he was named by 4 teams to be their first-round selection, the most of any player. A lottery allowed the Hanshin Tigers to sign him. The matchup between the two superstars turned out to be a bit of a dud, with Toin and Fujinami prevailing 9-2. Ohtani started and gave up all the runs, 5 of which were earned. He fanned 11, but also walked 11. The raw stuff was evident, but the command was sketchy at best. In the 6th inning, the team suffered a defensive collapse, and the rout was on. The bright spot for Shohei was the homer he did manage to club off of Fujinami. Toin went on to win the spring Koshien, while Ohtani had to go back to Aiwei and then grind through the prefecture tournament with the hopes of qualifying for a return to Koshien for the All-Japan tournament in August. The pressure was immense. One loss at any level of Koshien spells doom and the team is eliminated. There is no special invite for teams that have great or notable players. One stumble and the season ends. And so, once again we circle back to July 19th, 2012 in the 6th inning of the Aiwei Regional Semifinal, when Ohtani delivered that famous pitch that sent shockwaves not only throughout his own country, but the world. No one had ever hit that number at that young of an age in that tournament. No one. And the guy who did it was also the best hitter on the team. In the spring Koshien, Ohtani's max velo had sat at 95, about the same as what Kikuchi and Fujinami threw. Fast, but not necessarily out of the ordinary. He also featured a curveball and slider, but again, he couldn't control his pitches. By summer, Shohei was starting to repeat his delivery with more consistency, and suddenly 95 turned into 100, a completely different beast, and the world started to take notice. But fate can be cruel. In the final of the Aiwei tournament, Ohtani struck out 15, but again, the defense behind him faltered and his team lost, depriving him of the chance to finish his career at Summer Koshien with the ultimate prize. The star instead was Fujinami, who led Toin to victory with a pair of shutouts in the semis and finals. So, Toin won both Koshiens in 2012, with Ohtani coming away with a big goose egg. But still, he had left a mark on the sporting world that would not soon be forgotten. He had proved it was possible to be a superstar two-way player on the country's biggest amateur stage, paving the way for a career in both the NPB and the MLB that we haven't seen in the history of this great sport. Shohei Ohtani is a big manga fan, the Japanese cartoons that feature otherworldly characters. Growing up, he read Major, a pitcher who throws 102 and hits prodigious home runs. Sound familiar? As Ohtani has said, just getting to the Summer Koshien is very difficult. You ought to know, having been knocked out of it without winning his prefecture tournament in the past. If anything, this shows how well prepared Japanese high schoolers are, that a true all-time talent, possibly the greatest player in history, could take the bump, strike out 15, and still take the loss. But, as we said before, the true majesty of that summer, regardless of the outcome, wasn't who won the final game. Instead, it came in a sports-altering moment, in a single pitch that broke the mold of what high school baseball players could do, and what they might be allowed to do at the next level. Today, Shohei was the most famous baseball player in the world, and perhaps the most impactful, but let's not forget, it all had to start somewhere, and for many around the world, it was in 2012, in the Summer Koshien, when Ohtani changed everything. Alrighty, thank you all for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and click this playlist for other essay content just like this. Have a great day, everyone.